Welcome to today's video. We'll be tackling Computer Studies JAMB 2022 Model 1 questions. To begin with, we have question 1 that says a word processor can be used to dash A. Write text, B. Edit text, C. Print text, D. All of these. Now, Microsoft Word, we usually use it to write, edit, and print. So, in writing is the word you type, and the editing is like making corrections, formatting, making it all look good. While the print is just to get a physical hard copy. So, the word processor like Microsoft Word, LibreOffice can be used to do this. Now, we'll move over to question 2. Question 2 says, which of these application packages is mostly used by computer users? So now, to think about this, you have to know the one that can be used as students, as educators, in businesses, that is used everywhere. Now let's look at the answer. It says Microsoft Word. Why? Many people use for typing letters, documents. It's the most used. While CorelDRAW can be used by graphic designers, for editing all these posters we see outside, all this banner, or maybe some other designs, like for example, an app design or an architectural design. While Access is used for all these database management systems, and Excel for spreadsheets, analysis, statistics. Can also be used for invoices, receipts, no, just those. And then next, let's look at number 3. It says the function of an assembler is to dash A. Convert basic language to machine language, B. Convert high level language to machine language, C. Convert assembly language to machine language, D. Convert assembly language to high level language. So now the function of an assembler, while it's similar to a compiler, is totally different. So now an assembler, it converts this to machine language. So now assembler works with the assembly language. So in order to make the machine understand and comprehend what is being coded in the program, it needs an assembler which converts it into ones and zeros. What's ones and zeros? The binary, which it can understand. And so it takes the low level assembly code and converts it into machine code the CPU can execute. So that's the function of an assembler. Now we'll move over to question 4. Question 4 says, a computer can't boot if it does not have dash. A. Compiler, B. Loader, C. OS, D. Assembler. Let's think about this. So now, the answer is OS. Some people might confuse it and say it needs loader or that, but that is just for booting. So now, by booting I mean, booting is concerned with starting. So loader is just a distractor here. The operating system, for example, Windows, Mac OS, Android, also Linux, many various, is the boss. Now what do we mean by boss? It's like the main thing involved in the computer, because that's the way we interact with it. So now when you press the power button, the first thing loaded is the OS, operating system. That's the first thing that loads in. Without it, the computer cannot start. It's like trying to on a system where you need the OS, which is the computer to operate. Without it, it cannot even on, unless you just be starting up the hardware without the physical indication. So that is what we need. Move over to question 5. Question 5 says Firefox is an example of dash A. System software, B. Application package, C. Application software, D. Computer tools. So now we know this, we can manage this one. This one is quite easy. Let's look at what the answer says. Application software. So Firefox is an example of an application software. Why? Because a software can be system software or application software. Now the application software does a specific purpose. Like its tasks can be, for example, social media, entertainment. It can be even its installer. Okay, that one is of different peripheral. It can be browser, like this example, doing a specific purpose. It can also be, chatting apps, communication apps. Its main purpose is just for communication, like for example WhatsApp, or it can be a database package, software. So this purpose is for a particular thing, so that's why we call it application software. System software can be OS, as the explanation says. So it is an application software because Firefox is a web browser, an application you choose to surf the internet, which is browsing and doing all types of things. It's just like Google Chrome, nothing different. Now, question 6 says the caps lock key on a keyboard is used to dash A. Move to previous page, B. Delete files, C. Switch between upper and lower case letters, D. Space text. Now let's look at this one. Have you locked in your answers? Okay, let's proceed. So now it is used to switch between upper and lower case letters. What does caps in caps lock mean? It's a short for capital, an abbreviation. And pressing that caps lock, it turns it, if it is off, that means it's not highlighted, then it will turn it to capital. Then pressing it again will deactivate it, turning it to a lowercase. So now when you have the caps lock on, any letter you type in a text box or Word document, it will be capital. But if it is off, then it will be in a lowercase letter. So, and that now used to move to previous page, nope. Delete files, nope. And space text, nope. That's the job of the space bar. So let's continue. Which key deletes text? So now let's attempt this. Have you locked in your answers? Good. If you have locked in your answers, let's proceed. The key that deletes text is known as the backspace key. Why is it the backspace key? Recall that when you're typing a document, if you have ever typed, then if you want to delete a text, what do? You click the backspace to delete the mistake or any other fillers that is there. Now, two keys remove text. We have the delete, which removes characters to the right of your cursor, and backspace, which deletes characters to the left backwards. I'm sure some of you never knew this. So they delete characters to the right of your cursor, while backspace deletes to the left. So now as given. Since delete is now an option there, it will be backspace, meaning that. So let's move on. Question 8 says, from where can the name of a user account be changed? A. Setting. B. Computer name. C. Code. C. Code panel. D. Control panel. Have you locked in your answers? Let's check it out. Control panel. In Windows, the control panel is the central hub for adjusting all important settings, including managing user accounts, changing passwords, and updating account names. Now, this is the archaic or olden days Windows system, which is controlled via the control panel. Now, let's move on. What does WAN stand for? This question must be so sweet. Any computer student would understand this quickly. A. Word application network. B. Wide area network. C. Wide arc range. Oh my god, I've never heard of that word. Arc range network. D. Work arrangement network. Okay. Now have you look acreage. Okay, so wide acreage network. Had to get the pronunciation quickly. So now let's move on and check the correct answer. Now WAN stands for wide area network. A LAN, which is known as local area network covers a small area like a school or home, while a WAN covers a large geographical area, a country or the whole world. The internet itself is the biggest one ever built. So the internet also can also be known as WAN. Is the biggest one because through the use of the internet you can converse with people all around the world, making us a small global village. So that's what they call it. But do you know there's one in between LAN and WAN? It's called MAN, Metropolitan Area Network. So now that's just a tip in case it comes out and you're confused. Now move on to the next question. The acronym IP address has its full meaning to be dash. A. Internet protocol. B. Internet password. C. International processing. D. Internet processing. Now lock in your answers. Correct answer is Internet protocol. Internet protocol stands for IP stands for Internet Protocol. An IP address is like your device's home address on the internet. It tells data exactly where to travel to reach your device. Now, Internet Protocol is like an address for devices to communicate so that data knows where to reach. Now, for example, an IP can be this thing. An IP is just like a tag that identifies your device. It can be used to track your location. That's why a VPN, virtual private network, can be used to bypass this. It marks your real IP and gives a fake one through proxy. So that is what. And moving on to the next question. What belongs to the group? A, primary. B, main memory. What doesn't? Which doesn't belong to the group? A, primary. B, main memory. C, external memory. D, internal memory. Think critically. Let's lock in the answers. Have you locked in? Okay, let's proceed. External memory. Now, this involves picking the odd one out. In terms of this, every other one except external memory is inbuilt. Let me see, cannot be removed. It's built in. So, while external memory like flash, hard drive can be removed, and that's why they call it the term external, something that's outside. So let's see the explanation. Primary memory, main memory, and internal memory are all different names for the same thing. So they are just basically the same thing. The computer's built-in RAM and ROM. External memory refers to device you plug in that's making it the odd one out. So now we'll move on. Storage which retains data after power is cut off is called dash. A, volatile storage. B, non-volatile storage. C, sequential storage. D, direct storage. So now, have you locked in your answers? Have you locked it in? Now let's see the official explanation. The correct answer is non-volatile storage. Volatile memory like RAM requires electricity to hold data. Power cutoff and data vanishes. So when what that entails is, like for example, you're working on a project or typing a document and then suddenly the power cuts off while it's still in memory. That memory will be disregarded. That means once power cuts off, your data is lost. So that is not that does not retains. And then sequential storage, direct storage are distractors. Now, correct answer is non-volatile. That means just like hard drive or flash drive, it saves data permanently, even without power. That means once the power cut off, the data that was saved is still saved. So there's a analogy. Think of it like a non-vanishing storage. Now move on to the next question. An inventory management program can assist with dash. A, distribution. B, purchasing. C, planning. D, all of the above. Have you locked in your answers? Let's move on. Correct answer is all of the above. Why is it all of the above? So now, inventory programs track a business stock. By knowing what is in stock, a business can plan for the future, know what to purchase. By knowing what is in stock, a business can plan for the future, know when to purchase more items, and manage the distribution of those items. It helps with all of them. So the inventory management program does the function of all listed above. So that's why we click all of the above. It helps with distribution, tracking, knowing the places, so tracking the movement of goods and other products, and planning. It helps to plan the stock planning, which helps in decision making, knowing how much you have, how much you can give out, and the quantity. It can also assist with trends and purchasing. Now it can also help with purchasing by this in businesses know which one to purchase, when it's needed, etc. Now let's move on. Now question 14 says, in any software package, which of the following versions represent a major improvement on the previous version? A 1.2, D B 1.5, C 2.0, D 2.5. Do you have your answer with you? Lock it in. Let's check whether it's correct. C 2.0. Now, why is it 2.0, you might ask? In software versioning, a change in the decimal, like from 1.0 to 1.5, means minor updates and or bug fixes, while a change from 1.0 to 2.0 is a major release with big new features. So 2.0 represents a major improvement. What does this mean? Like for example, if we go from 2.0 to 2.5, those are just minor or bug fixes that are not necessarily a major improvement. While from 2.0 to 3 is a major improvement, like it brings new features. Like let's say for example, you're chatting, like for WhatsApp there's no status. So and it jumps from 2.0 to 3.0 and brings a status feature. That improvement is major. So those are some kind of analogies to understand this topic in this question. So now let's move on to the next question. Encryption helps with what? A. Spam messages. B. Identify sources of messages. C. Safe delivery of messages to destination without being accessed by a third party. D. Interpretation of message and digital data. This is actually crucial. In JAMB, where you are limited by time, another way to spot what's the answer is by looking at which answer is more detailed. This is just a tip, it's not always guaranteed to be true, but this can help you in your JAMB. Don't let JAMB jam you. So have you locked in your answers? Let's move on. Cracking comes under dash. A. Website service. B. Transcription. C. Computer crime. D. Data security. Have you locked in your answers? Yeah, let's see the correct answer. Computer crime. Cracking means breaking into a computer system by passing password or pirating software with malicious intent. It is illegal and classified as a cybercrime, not a security measure or legitimate service. Now I want to give people a sweet example. All these Microsoft Word people are activating without paying, or apps or programs that are paid or modded Android apps. That is cracking. You get? So that is considered computer crime. So I'm sure 90% of you watching this video, you have entered cracking. If I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. Oh god. So let's move on to the next question. I not say me I'm safe, but But please, YouTube, don't hear that one. Question 17 says, in the files, if the order of operation on two or more files are similar, then the operation will be dash. A. Complex. B. Simple. C. Sequential. D. Combinational. Now, think of it like there are multiple people in a line. How would they handle all of them? Just use that as an analogy. Have you locked in your answers? Let's see. Now, when multiple files share the same operation order, the system processes them one after the other, one after another, in sequence. That is called sequential operation. Each file is handled in turn, not simultaneously. So sequential means, as I use that analogy, one after the other. So now that means they'll go one by one. Now you want to delete a file multiple files. You first delete image 1, then go to image 2, then go to image 3. It cannot just delete all of them at once. So that's that. We move on to question 18. Question 18 says, what is a computer file? A computer program. B, a document like bunch of text. C, a place on a computer where information is stored. D, a physical paper document that entails how a computer works. Have you locked in your answers? If you have, let's move on. Now, a computer file is a place on a computer where information is stored. In computing, a file is the standard container for data, whether it's a song, a picture, or a word document. The computer treats it as a specific place where a chunk of information is saved under a given name. Now, a computer file is like where the information is stored. Don't you think like the file itself, but where it is saved, the directory it is saved in. So that's how the computer treats the file. I know it might seem opposing, but that's the logic. Now let's move on to question 19. Question 19 says, when does the input of a NAND gate equal to 1? A, whenever A is present at an input. B, only when all output is equal to 0. C, whenever 1 is present at an input. D, only when all input is equal to 1. Have you locked in the answer? Let's move on. Now, the answer is whenever a 0 is present at an input. You might say why, how? But I'll draw a table to explain it. In an AND gate, outputs 1 only when all inputs are 1. We all know that. So if it's like 1 0, it will still be 0 0 1 0. Only when both. A way to remember this quickly in your exam is just think all must be one, and both one, boom. But all, you just need at least one. So you can use that to quickly remember if it's another type of question where they're asking generally about and or gate. So it attributes and gate attributes one only when all attributes are one, while a NAND gate, also called, is a shortened version of not and. Not and just flips the and value output. So if and before was 1, when all input is 1, then you switch this to 0. So you're getting where we're going at. So it is the exact opposite. It attributes 0 only when all inputs are 1. For every other combination, meaning when at least one 0 is present, the output is 1. Do you understand? Now for this example, use a 2x2 AND gate. So now, how many rows do we need? We use, it is 2 raised to power 2, since it's only 2 columns we're using, and that will give us 4. That means we need 4 rows. Now let's say we can use the 1 1 and then 0 0 and then 1 0 1 0. That is our gate. And then, don't mind my awful drawing. Still waiting for the day I'll get my stylus. So we know that the output of this, if it is AND, would be, since both are 1, it will give us 1. But since 0 is here, 0 0 0 0 0. So now NOT would give us NOT would give us 1 1 will give us, since it's 1, it give us 0 1 1 1 1. Now it says, when does the output of a NAND gate cost 1? So as you can see, when the output is 1 is when there is at least a 0 present. So that means whenever a 0 is present at the input. Now we can use this as an understand. So let's move on to the next question. Now question 30 says, 20 I mean, it says an input gate that can pass a digital waveform unchanged at certain times and inverted at the other time is dash. A. AND gate, B. OR gate, C. NAND gate, D. XOR gate. Think about this critically. Have you locked in your answer? Let's move on and see what we get. Now the answer is an XOR gate. Why? An XOR gate is known to be an inverter. That means if one input is 0, the other output signal passes through unchanged. If the the XOR gate is famous as a controlled inverter. If one input is 0, the other input's signal passes through unchanged. While if the control input is changed to 1, the signal is flipped, inverted. So no other gate here has this property. So that's why the answer is XOR. The end users are able to operate at the dash tier: A. Model, B. Application, C. Data, D. Presentation. So now, have you locked in your answers? Let's move on. Now the answer is presentation tier. In computer system architecture, the presentation tier is the user interface, which has the buttons, text, screens you see and interact with, also known as the what? OS, operating system. End users are able to operate here. The data tier holds databases here, and the application tier holds the business logic. This question is quite an easy one, you just need you to think about it. A tier in which the database resides along with the query processing language is called dash. A. Application tier, B. Data tier, C. Presentation tier, D. Model tier. This is just the other question is just similar to this. Through the explanation self, you should know the answer. Have you locked in your answer? If you have, let's move on and see the correct answer. Data tier. As we said in the previous question of question 21, the database holds data, while the query processing languages, just like SQL, standard query language, are used to interact with it, so they reside in the data tier because they are related and concerned with data. Now let's move on to the next one. Java is a dash language. A. High level, B. Low level, C. Machine, D. Algorithm. So now let's think about these. Have you locked in your answers? Let's proceed as C. Java is a high level. Programming languages such as Java, Python, and C++ use English-like words, print, if, while making them easier for humans to read and write. This makes them high-level languages. Low-level languages like machine codes are just numbers the hardware reads directly. So now, anyone that deals with the English-like words, those are high-level. And low-level, a machine code that the machine reads directly. Question 24 says, how many values can a bit have? A. 2, B. 4, C. 10, D. 256. Now a hint is, just think about the binary. That's all. Have you locked in your answers? Let's move on and see. So the answer is 2. So now, as I said, a bit is short for binary digit. Bi means 2. A single bit can never be a 1. Can only be a 0 or a 1. 2 possible values. A byte has 8 bits and can represent 256 value, but a single bit has only 2. As I said, think about binary, you can only have 0 or 1. 0 means false, 1 means true, or 0 means off, 1 means on, can represent two possible things. Now let's move on to the next question. The binary system has a radix of dash. This is similar to our previous question, but it's talking about bases. A 0, B 1, C 2, D 1/2. Have you locked in your answers? If you have, let's proceed with the proceedings. So now, a radix is just a mathematical term for base. The binary system uses only two digits, 0 and 1. So the base is its radix, which is 2. Our normal one, which is the decimal, uses 10 digits. So its base is 10. Now, what are the 10 digits? I'm not meaning 1, 2, 3, 4 till 10. It starts with 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are the digits in our decimal. While binary, which is a radix of 2, or you call it a base of 2, uses only two values, 0 and 1. Now, is that understood? Let's move on. Which of the following is termed as the minimum error code? A. Binary code, B. Gray code, C. XS3 code, D. Octal code. You have your answers locked in? If you have, let's proceed. Now, this is the explanation. It says gray code is a special binary sequence where only one single bit changes at a time as to count up. Because only one bit changes per step, it minimizes the chance of reading errors during hardware transitions. Hence, minimum error code. So this is how the minimum error code is termed, the gray code. Let's move on to the next question. Question 27 says, the set of rules that defines correctly structured statements in a programming language is called A. Syntax, B. Instruction, C. Program, D. Domain. Have you locked in your answers? If you have, let's proceed. The answer is syntax. Just like the English language, where you have your grammar rules like punctuation, capitalization, and so on, programming languages have syntax. If you type a specific command but forget your comma or bracket, you get a syntax error because you broke the language rules. Syntax defines a valid. What is a valid statement? So now, when a programmer is coding and mistakenly a typo, it highlights it as, for example, red, which indicates a syntax error. So, or if you try to run the program where it has some errors in the syntax, it will throw up an issue. Question 28 says, what controls the way a computer system functions and provide a means for users to interact with the computer? A. Application software, B. Internet software, internet, C. Operating system, D. Control unit. You have your answers locked in. Locked in. Locked in. If you have, then we can continue. So now, correct answer is operating system. The OS, the operating system, controls hardware functions behind the scenes and gives you a graphical user interface GUI, so you can click, type and interact with the computer. So through the use of the operating system is a way you interact. Imagine interacting with a computer that is blank. Like, how will you tell which is which? So the operating system is crucial for this type of interactions with the computer. Now move on to the next question. Question 29 says, the device primarily used to provide hard copy is the A. Printer, B. Card reader, C. Computer console, D. OMR. Have you locked in your answers? Let's move on. So now, a soft copy is the file on screen. When you want a physical touchable paper copy, also known as a hard copy, you send the document to the printer. No other devices listed produces physical printed output. Now, for example, you finish typing your document and you want to print it out to get a hard copy. Now, what do you use? You can't use card reader, computer console, OMR. What you use is a printer, so you can get the physical copy. Now let's move on to question 30. Question 30 says, the device primarily used to provide hard copy is the A. Printer, B. Card reader, C. Computer console, D. CRT. Wait, isn't this similar to the previous question? You see, JAMB is easy. Are you with your answers? Lock it in. Now the answer is printer. In computer terms, a soft copy is what you see on screen, digital, while a hard copy is something you physically can hold with your hand in a paper. The device that turns digital files into physical paper copies is the printer. Now, as the previous question says, a printer is used to turn these copies into physical copy, hard copy that you can hold and touch and feel. So that is that. To move on to the next question. Question 31 says, the joystick typically has a button on dash used to select the option pointed by the cursor. A. Bottom, B. Left, C. Right, D. Top. Hint, just remember the layout of the joystick. Do you have your answers locked in? If so, let's move on. Now, an analogy is, think of a pilot flying a jet or a gamer using a flight stick. You hold the stick in your hand and your thumb naturally rests on the very top. That top button is the main action or select button because it's the easiest to reach quickly. Now the options used to select is on the top. Which of the following is a computer not used for? A. Entertainment. B. Information. C. Social media. D. None of the above. Do you have your answers with you? If so, let's move on. Correct answer is D. None of the above. Computers are incredibly versatile. You want to watch movies on them or entertainment, browse Wikipedia, news for information, and chat on Facebook. Is WhatsApp considered a social media? Let's leave that on Instagram, X/Twitter for social media. They are used for all these purposes. So use computer for all this. So that's why the correct option is D. None of the above. 33. This it says the combination of the arithmetic and logic units as well as the dash unit makes up the central processing unit. A. Input. B. Memory. C. Control. C. D. I/O. IO. Do you have your answers with you? If so, let's move on and check the correct answer. Now the correct answer is control. Now remember, the CPU has two main parts, the ALU and which does the math and logic, while the control unit which directs the flow of data is like the bus or the traffic warden or a bus conductor. So it controls, acting like a traffic cop, where so together they form the CPU. Now a simple way to remember this is with a mnemonic: always look cool. So using that, you can know it's arithmetic, logic, and control unit, which makes up the central processing unit. Now with this, we can move on to the next question. How are the stages of SDLC implemented? A. Randomly without overlapping. B. Sequentially without overlapping. C. Sequentially with overlapping. D. Randomly with overlapping. Shall I give you a hint? SDLC means System Development Life Cycle or software. So, do you have your answers locked in? If so, let's move on. SDLC stands for Systems Development Life Cycle. In the traditional waterfall model, this is what JAMB mostly tells about the waterfall model. You must finish one phase completely before starting the next, moving strictly sequentially downward with no overlap. So what this means is you first do one stage, like the research, the idea. You first do that stage, then after that you use that data to plan. After planning the layout structure, what the, like for example, if you are building an app, what the app is supposed to do, then you now go to the building stage or the coding stage. If it's an app, then you start coding it meticulously based on the plan. Then that's when you now go to the deployment stage, the making the app to be available or sites to be available or any other thing for the public. Then there's an extra stage where you can debug, find issue, version control that. Now through all of this, you go sequentially without overlapping. It has its quirks, it has its pros and also its cons, but you usually go sequentially without overlapping one by one. Don't just decide to do all of them at once. So that is what this is. I'll move on to the next question. Dash is the conversion of computer data from one format to another. A. Data conversion. B. Data implementation. C. Data transmission. D. Data transfer. Now, are you with the answers? Do you have the answers locked in? Now, let's move on and check if your answer is correct. Correct answer is data conversion. Now, this one is a sweet question because the answer is already in the question itself. Converting an audio file like from MP3 to a WAV format or a docs to a PDF is called data conversion. So now the MP3 has a full meaning of motion picture expert group audio layer 3. I know it is a mouthful. And WAV, WAV stands for waveform audio file format. And docs is Office Open XML document, and PDF portable document format. So now through this we can move on to the next question. Delete permission allows one to dash A. Share music. B. Delete or remove files and directories. C. Read files and directories. D. Modify files and directories. So now the answer is in the question itself. Now the delete permission allows one to delete. Oh, sorry. Let's move on to the. My bad. Now the delete permission allows one to delete or remove files and directories. That's the purpose. In file security and permissions, if an administrator grants you delete permission, it gives you the power to delete those specific files and directories, while read permission is separate as it modifies specific permission. Now let's move on to the next question. Which of the following is not a model used in problem solving? A. Critical thinking. D. SDCL. C. Waterfall. D. Prototype. So now, I think there might be a typo in me typing this question. Let me cross check if it is SDCL. So now I've cross checked the question and it's correct. It's wild how WAEC mistakenly made a typo. I said mistakenly, intentionally made a typo. So now, have you locked in your answers? I might have already given the biggest hint in history. If so, let's move on. Correct answer is SDCL. Critical thinking, waterfall, and prototype are all recognized problem-solving or development models. SDCL is not the real acronym of SDLC, System Development Life Cycle. What am I saying? SDCL is not. The real acronym of that is SDLC, which stands for Systems Development Life Cycle. SDCL is a made-up term, making it the odd one out. So this is a sweet distractor. That's why we know it's not it. But don't get fooled. Let's move on to the next question. The Explorer bar is divided into dash categories: A 2, B 3, C 5, D 7. Is your answers locked in? If it is, let's move on and see the answers. So now this is a thing of older Windows. In older Windows and Internet Explorer, the Explorer bar side panel had three main modes: search to find new things, favorites to view saved sites, and history to view the past searches or events. Now these categories were the core division, making the answer 3. So that's to tell you you need to study the history of systems to pass your JAMB. So let's move on to the next question. System software has which major function? A. Giving utility. B. Making navigation easier for users. C. Controlling the computer system. D. Maintain the system. So now think about it. Do you have your answers locked in? Let's move on and see. Now the system software, which is also known is like the operating system, is the manager. Its primary job is not visual designs or games. Its major function is to control hardware and software resources, keeping the entire system running smoothly. So its job is to control and orchestrate the directions of the computer systems. Now let's move on to the next question. Which among the following generation had computers had expensive operation costs? A. Is it the first generation? B. Is it the second generation? C. Is it the third generation? D. Is it the fourth generation? So, using this we can propound the answer. Do you have your answers locked in? If so, let's move on and check. Answer is A. First generation computers from 940s to the 50s used vacuum tubes. They were very massive, like filling entire rooms, which generated enormous heat. Energy releases heat, and they needed huge amounts of electricity to run, making them incredibly expensive to operate compared to the later generation. So as improvements came, transistors, the chips and so on, integrated circuits, is made it easier and simpler, more efficient, generated less heat, took less space. But the first generation was the pioneering moment.